At Joe's diner, the late shift kept secrets between coffee rings and napkins. A quiet man paid in coins and times, left folded notes, and watched names like inventory. When a photocopy vanishes and the sheriff looks tired, ordinary nights start to feel deliberate. Keep your eyes on the stool. Small things become maps. He sat on the same stool every night and left coins on the counter until the names on the missing posters started matching. I worked nights at Joe's diner off Route 9. The place sat under a flickering sign and smelled like grease and coffee. People came for pie and late fries. The regulars were small talk and small debts. The man in the coat fit right in. He ordered black coffee. He left nickels or dimes sometimes, neat on the formica. He nodded at the staff, asked after someone's kid, and then walked out with someone from the late shift crowd. I remember his coat. Brown, like old leaves. Wait, at first I thought he was just quiet. He'd sit at the stool by the window and watch the street. He knew names. He asked Mrs. Calloway about her son who worked nights. He smiled at the busboy like he was the mayor. He didn't take food, just the coffee. Some nights he'd leave a folded napkin with a tiny paper note tucked inside. Nothing but a time. I wrote his face down in my head because that's what you do. Hold up. Months later, posters went up on the community board. Names and pictures flapping with thumbtacks. A girl from the laundromat. A kid from the pizza place. Guys from the river trail. I noticed the dates taped under the photos. The dates matched nights when the man in the coat had been at Joe's. I thought it was coincidence. I tried to sleep. I couldn't. One slow Tuesday, I was cleaning the sugar canister when I found a thin notebook shoved behind the counter, tucked between trays. Inside were names, dates, times, a list, neat lines. Some entries had short notes. Left with man, or stool 6, or 2 coins. It looked like a ledger. My hands shook. I photocopied a page and slipped it to my friend Sam at the sheriff's office. Next morning, the photocopy was gone from my locker. The notebook itself vanished. The owner, Joe, told me I was imagining things and to stop making a scene. He put his hand on the space like a lid. "We don't need trouble," he said. "Wait again." The deputy came by and asked questions. He already had a story. The man moved away, he said. Nights were normal. The posters disappeared slowly, taken down or replaced with neatly printed missing person pamphlets, arranged on the corkboard like a display. I kept seeing the empty stool each closing time. I watched the window where the man used to look. It all felt like a pause where something should be moving. I kept thinking about the ledger and the coins. Hold on. I went back to the spot behind the counter one night after close. I crouched and felt the cool linoleum under my knees. There was a faint outline where something had been, dust shaped like a small rectangle. I looked under trays and boxes. Nothing. I thought of calling Sam, but I didn't. Small odd things started to happen. A coin would appear on the counter at 1:13 a.m. when only one cook was on the floor. A napkin with a time written on it in pencil. A salt shaker moved slightly. A trash bag not where we'd left it. I asked the dishwasher once and he shrugged. One night a woman burst in crying, clutching a photo. "Did you see him?" she asked. She looked like she hadn't slept. I told her the man had been here, maybe. She stared at the bar. She left with no coffee. I watched her go and felt a small, sharp thing in my chest. Hold up. Then came the call. Sam stopped by, his face the color of cheap coffee. He told me quietly there was a link, partial, 2 degrees, between several disappearances and nights around Joe's. He said the notebook photocopy matched dates. He said evidence was thin. He said not to say anything. I kept working. Dishes, orders, wiping the counter with the same rag until the cloth felt like skin. People told me to stop looking. Mind your job, they said. I filled coffee and smiled and asked how the pie was. I was messing up sentences, forgetting names, dropping forks. One night, after a late closing, I walked the back alley to my car. The moon was thin. I saw a coat on a bench, folded, and a few coins placed carefully on top. That coat looked like the man's coat. I froze. I picked up a coin and put it in my pocket. My hands smelled like metal. I left the coat. Hold on. The next morning, Joe called me into the office and shut the door. He said, "You keep poking where it hurts. You made people nervous." He slid an envelope across the desk. Inside was cash and a small note. "Keep quiet. For the diner." His eyes didn't meet mine. I slept badly after that. I wrote Sam a note and left it on his desk, but he was gone, called away on a case. The woman called to say the sheriff had stopped taking her calls. The posters had been taken down. The pamphlets stayed arranged, neat and silent. Months passed. The stool stayed empty. The man in the coat didn't come back. Sometimes I thought I saw him in reflections. A shadow at the end of the street, a flash in a car window. Once I found a napkin in the trash with a time on it matching a date in the notebook. My stomach turned. Hold up. I kept the coin. I kept it in my wallet next to a faded receipt that had the photocopy number written on the back. Some nights I would rub the coin between my thumb and first finger until the metal warmed. I told myself it would be proof if anything happened. Sometimes at night I replay the ledger and imagine small ways he watched. I picture him counting coins with a slow thumb, reading times, making a plan from tiny gestures no one else saw. I think of the busboy wiping a spill while the man in the coat talked about a son, of the woman who laughed then stopped, of how ordinary moments stack. Those small pieces look like nothing until they are a pattern. I started writing times on my hand, as if a note might catch truth. Final thing. One evening a new poster went up on the community board. Another name and face. The date listed the week before. I walked past the board and my boots scuffed the floor like I had been walking in a dream. I touched the paper with my thumb. I still see the empty stool at closing. I still count coins and napkins. I still look at the back alley when I lock up. I tell myself simple answers, but the ledger lines in my head won't stop. Little choices add up. Small people leave small marks. Sometimes those marks make a map. If you ever find a coin on a counter and a man who asks after your kid, don't smile and forget. Keep the coin. Make a note. Tell someone who will not fold the paper away. Little things can be the only map we get.